Hi, so this video is for those of you that have just heard me reference things that I found on Ancestry about the relationship between the photographic artist of my carte de visite that printed it, that took a daguerreotype and copied it onto carte de visite. I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Um, but yeah, I'm just going to go through all of this so you can just see that Emma Smith, Joseph Smith's wife, Joseph Smith III's mother, knew the father of J.S. Bibbins, who did the photograph for a Smith family album. So the eBay seller was telling me in 2017, at that point he thought a different picture was Joseph Smith. He was just very not a member of the church, but there's different breakaway groups, so you can kind of guess there. But he just worked really hard to try to find any pictures from like Nauvoo. He has a bunch of daguerreotypes from Nauvoo, trying to look through those and see if he knows if they're anyone. Um, yeah, but then he had still called it a Smith family album when I bought it from him. He just says, I don't know who it is in the picture at this point because, all these scholars in 2009 said it couldn't be him. They didn't really give much reason, but anyway. So he believed them by 2017, but he didn't change his story. He didn't lie. He just still said it was a Smith family album, a Smith family that lived, that could make it to Newark, Illinois. And I do think it's plausible Joseph Smith III could, because he, for a couple decades, just about a couple decades, was 10 miles away from this guy, Elisha Bibbins. So I'm just going to show you, this is 1850 census. And here you're going to find it called, the town of Big Grove. They talk about Big Grove, but it's Kendall County. And here you're going to find his family. So at this point, he's 20 years old. So he's 10 years older than Joseph Smith III. You have Elisha Bibbins, who's 59. He's a clergyman. He's from New York. His wife, Alice, is from Connecticut. She's 58 in 1850. So they're all born before, in the 1700s, the father and mother. And then he just has a couple, siblings that are still living at home. And they're all from Pennsylvania. So all the children are born in Pennsylvania, but they're all living in Illinois at this point. So this is the 1850. And then here you see just sort of specific information. He's born in 1821 in Pennsylvania. The photographic artist, Joseph Slocum Bibbins, dies in 1891 in Plano, Kendall County, Illinois. So at that point, Joseph Smith III had moved to, I think, Iowa, and then settled in Missouri. So he really moved around quite a bit, but wasn't experiencing anything his father went through, which, the descendants today think was a blessing. So there are descendants. They didn't kill his children, so that's good. But they didn't go to Utah. So stayed in Illinois, ended up in Missouri. Yeah, so this guy gets married in 1851. And then here's 1863. We find that he was sort of possibly drafted into, but this is Joseph L. So that's where it gets a little confusing, but the age matches up about 1822. So I tried to find out if he did. There's not much. I've clicked on this before, this 1865, and they still call it Big Grove. But here we go, is in 1880. You're going to see his profession does change. So at this point, so we found out he has gotten married. He has two daughters. So his daughter living with him, but you don't see a wife there. So by 1880, he's now just a clerk in a store. In 1880, he has two daughters. He's 58. 1860, this is where we'll find that he considered himself an artist. He'd like to use that word, but I found, I can show you some tax information where he says specifically photographer. Born in Pennsylvania, and he got his mother, Alice, 69, living with J.S. Bibbins, his wife, and then he has 4 children, and for whatever reason they're not family search, so I'm doing research on that. I'm indirectly, I'm related to him, so I was able to get some temple work done for him, which was kind of cool. So I'm learning how to do all this. I wasn't big into family history or church history before all this, so it's all been a good positive thing for me. So this is a book in North America, Family Histories. And so you're seeing, there we got Alice, the mother. It's all very consistent. Elisha Bibbins, Methodist preacher. Okay, you're seeing J.S. Bibbins, Newark, Illinois. They're all Methodist. Just kind of on a visit to Scranton, Pennsylvania, visiting friends. Elisha Bibbins died. So his father, has friends in Scranton, so it's like Eastern Pennsylvania. The children, they're all Methodist. Da, da, da. It's just really important to say their religion. So, and there's just a lot of different things here, but there is some tax papers, just different things I haven't read yet until recently. Sometimes it gets shuffled each time. There you go, 18. Joseph Slocum Bibbins, this should be it. Sometimes he calls himself an artist, but there you've got Joseph Slocum. And there you've got more specifically photographer. Photographer liaison? I'm not sure what word they're putting there. But this is IRS tax, so that's just showing his specific, in 1862. Okay, so I'm kind of done with this. So this is ancestry. So these are census records, things like that. And so if you go to my website and go to J.S. Bibbins, the photographic artist, you're going to find a lot of different links here, but so these links you can just click on, but you can't click on a link and go to Ancestry, so I think I'm going to throw some screenshots on my website. And some of the links, there was one that was a family history link that did disappear, so I edit my website every so often to see, do the links work? Some of them are not clickable, but you can just copy and paste them. But here you see, they're going through all the Bibbins that were pioneers. And you're just seeing that whole family again. It's very consistent. You're only finding Joseph Slocum's father is Elisha and Alice. And he's a reverend. And why is this important? So this is a whole article. So this is on my website. You have to, for some reason it wasn't clickable on my website, but this is written by our friend, Mark L. Staker. It's very, very long. And I remember reading through this and just very, very detailed about Isaac and Elizabeth Hale. So Emma Smith, her maiden name is Hale. She is from Susquehanna County, Harmony, Pennsylvania. And so Joseph Smith left Palmyra with his father in 1825 and went to work and stayed in Emma Smith's house. And then stayed with some other people later on because they started dating and it probably wasn't appropriate. And so he was staying with other people later on. But that's where he met Emma. It was in Susquehanna. So if you go to the family website, you can just click on that here actually. So there's two links to this. So if we come here, this is that whole 100-page thing, but what's really nice is you can just find on page and you can go Bibbins and it'll take you straight there. And so here it's going to explain, they go into great detail of him having a prominent nose, and I found pictures of Joseph Slocum Bibbins' father. It's this guy, prominent nose. I could only find, so this when Elisha Bibbins in 1812 was in Susquehanna County as a traveling minister. And so they're just explaining, he's the preacher and Emma's, and they even say she's probably maybe 8 years old, or so, that this preacher really inspired her to just pray with her heart outside in the woods, and her father just heard how sincere his daughter was in her prayers, and then he it entered his heart with such power as to lead him to faith in Christ. And so then religion was allowed, and she was able to grow in her faith, which is a really, really good thing. So members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we don't think other religions are bad. They think their faith is real and connection to God is real. And Joseph Smith was leaned towards Methodism, so it was it was a new religion at this point. If you go to my website, you're going to see that I have researched this Elisha Bibbins, and so there's not a clickable link, but you can just copy it. Go here, and then you're going to go to this book, History of Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, where Emma Smith was from. You're going to see when was Bibbins here. And then you see he is there. You're only finding Bibbins once in this book in 1812. And so you're seeing, there's that. I get rid of some of these links here. So 1812, this is more western Pennsylvania. In 1814, he is then in more eastern Pennsylvania, and he dies visiting friends in eastern Pennsylvania near Scranton. So you'll just kind of see, where is this? What is this book? So this is history of the Wyoming Conference. So and you can just read through that and see, but this all lines up in location. And you do see in that book and the work done by Mark Staker that there was a different Methodist minister a couple years later. So they traveled. They were circuit riders. And so these two books that I just clicked on, real quick to show you. So Luzerne County is more eastern Pennsylvania. It's close to Scranton. So, but we do that Newark, that they did have in 1844. They did have like a ward, and LDS members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints lived in Newark. And then by 1866, Joseph Smith III lived 10 miles away from J.S.Bibbin. So I've found both of them and found their records to see were they living near each other when this was printed, and yes, they were. So, and then you'll find here, this is that report. I kind of faded some of that out, but I'll edit this to all be clear because I got the go-ahead from this person that they're okay with their name, with their official report being on here. So it's not fake. This is real. There's every indication that the eBay seller is completely and totally incapable of faking a photo of anyone famous to make money, if that makes sense, because it wasn't just Joseph Smith that you thought he had pictures of that you hear about in the juvenile instructor in 2009. He still had what he considered, he had hope. He's just one of those people. He's like, oh, I think, I've been finding, he just had money and time and a passion to try to find pictures of people from church history, and some of them that he still has or whatever might turn out to be some people, but some of them just aren't, They said, what, she looks 15, she's too young in 2009. He was still trying to sell this image and carding it as Emma Smith, and I've spoken with him and said, well, it looks more like maybe Joseph Smith III's wife, and just kind of threw that out there at him. He'd shown me quite a few. He owns hundreds and hundreds of pictures. He had in his eBay website, he just had a lot that were Smith. So if anything said Smith, he's like, I'm buying it. If it was written Smith on it, he'd buy it. But he wasn't capable of what some people do. They make fake photos of Abraham Lincoln. But you have images of Emma Smith, and we have pictures of Emma Smith. And so his images he hopes are her are not her. You can tell from the naked eye that, and that Emma Smith was not 15, she was almost 40. When photography, she was in her mid to late 30s in 1839 when photography became available. But what really impressed this person, that just, these people that I've gotten their opinions of, that are, there are people that are trying to see if this is an image, or if they're, you know, what they think is all that it is. It's not that they're like helping me. I'm not paying anyone. I was trying to see if I could raise money to have some tests done up in San Francisco, and I had, it cost me quite a few $100s, but it wasn't the thousands that he said. If he looked at this and saw any indication that this was fake, he would recommend, oh, let's look at it under this machine or that machine. Even then, he said it wouldn't prove or disprove anything, really. It would just be spending a lot of money. He didn't think there was really any point, but he said he didn't see any indication that this was fake. There's every indication that it is a copy of a daguerreotype. So someone photographed a daguerreotype and printed it on paper. And then what impressed him was those backgrounds. These backgrounds are so unique. And, there is what he calls like foxing on this image. But as I've looked at it, it does look like a textured background, is my opinion. And so if you're looking here, you're seeing Emma Smith's background is a textured background. This was 1845. Joseph Smith III believes that his father had his picture taken, and he used that picture. So it's like there's this new theory now that one of the people I'm talking to thinks that it, they're just not biased. They're not my friends, and they're not members of the church. It's just their honest opinion. This is a copy of a daguerreotype. Just as a professional that has, this guy studied chemistry and knows, it's really cool. It's been really fun, but it's, 1845, because Joseph Smith, as youngest, Joseph Smith III's, so Joseph Smith and Emma's youngest child was David Hiram Smith, was born in November 1844. And so you'll see that on pencil, written by their eldest adopted daughter, that she said this, was David Hiram Smith. So as a baby, they don't think this could have been much any later than 1845. Of course, he's not an infant. He's not just some super tiny baby. He's growing a little bit, but and then Joseph Smith III, as I've shown you many, many times, his letter in the scholarly article states his memory is of Lucian Foster. Is all that we have. He's like, I think Lucian Foster took a picture of my father. I don't know. And that's who he remembers. So the whole family must have gone to that studio. And so if you go to Lucian Foster, what do we know about him? We believe this was done by him. It looks like that draped background there, this damaged daguerreotype, but it's this oval shape. My picture's an oval. Emma Smith's daguerreotype is an oval like that. It's a similar looking case. We do know that Lucian Foster had his studio open August 10th of 1844. And then through July, he didn't have a studio. And then Joseph Smith and Hiram die June 27th, 1844. So we recently had that anniversary. Yes, you can say that he wasn't running his studio when Joseph Smith was alive. Well, it makes absolutely no logical sense that he wouldn't have his camera until the day he opened his studio. Like, that's pretty stupid. Like, who opens a business or a profession without practicing, without setting up and seeing if the background and the lighting is okay? Because it costs money to buy this whatever bar. It's very obvious that Emma Smith, this Lucian Foster, draped something over something inside of his studio and has a light source. And hers is a daguerreotype. The light source is the exact opposite of my image, which is accurate. The light was coming from their left, because if Emma Smith's picture was flipped around, the light is now hitting the left side of her face, as it hitting the left side of face of my image. So, Lucian Foster, it came in April 1844. Brings Joseph Smith a gold pencil case. Joseph Smith wrote with it, "God bless the man, Lucian Foster." Is on Joseph Smith's presidential campaign in spring of 1844. So he's a photographer. He studied in New York. He was living in New York on a mission, but he also worked. Men would go on missions, but they would be with their families and they'd have a job. His job was as a photographer. So from April to August, sometime in between that time, he's going to buy a camera. I don't think he bought it August 10th, 1844. I think he had it before then. And I think they all would have been too depressed in July to really be practicing. I think in June, May, I think in those time frame, and then they all kind of get through that mourning period, and then he opens the studio. He could have opened it maybe July 4th. I don't know, but that disproves nothing. I think one of those people I spoke to, I'm not going to say the name, just often just said I've researched what their opinion was, and just like, I know somewhere, I don't know where it was, but I know someone said that Lucian Foster just didn't have his camera. It's like, how do you know? Is there any way to know that Lucian Foster did not have a camera the whole month of July or June when he had one in August of 1844? It just makes no sense. But these are also believed to be done by Lucian Foster. We're seeing that, especially this far right one, harsh far right lighting. And so this is assumed, this is possibly, but all the images we just think are probably Lucian Foster. There's one of the temple that they know was his, but these backgrounds are just so similar. And so it's all extremely plausible. And so that's just where I'm at right now. So again, you can just go to the Ancestry website and check all this up and see who lived where. And I have all these links. I just can't give a direct link to the Ancestry website, so that's why I did this video. But it's just fun for me to talk about it. I'm very passionate about it. It's fun, I don't hate the people that disagree with me. It's just funny now, just how people have reacted. It's just, well, these statements, oh, well, there wasn't plaid in 1844, and I think your guy's wearing plaid, so it's not him. Or criticizing the ears. If you look at the ears of my guy, I really think his left ear looks different than his right ear. But then again, it could be that they pulled on their ears. Maybe somebody in the mob drug him by his hair. If they made fun of his ears, maybe they grabbed. You just don't know what has happened to someone's ears to make them shaped differently. We've seen women who wear very 1980s thick earrings and see that their earlobes are a completely different shape than they were when they were 18 because they're wearing, things happen to your face, and a lot happened to Joseph Smith's face in his lifetime. And that's where I just really, I don't have the facial analysis page anymore. Everything's just on here. So if you go to my website, you'll see it's changed a little bit, or I've just decided to show you a little more simplified, just like videos where you can just see, someone will just criticize the eyebrows. So, well, it's not him because the eyebrows are a different shape. And I'm like, I don't think so. I just see something really different. So you can just see that I've just created, no sound, no music. You can see that I'm just outlining like the eyebrows, hairs. Trying to see where these darker shadows, this very interesting, unique shape, and just look down at the death mask as I'm drawing that. Just to see, yeah, there's going to be swelling of the face. There's going to be a little bit of distortion after someone dies, especially when they die very violently. But, Joseph was shot in the back. And so I'm not necessarily drawing where the hairs start. I think the hairs start a little bit farther there, but that's just where it's clumped up and a little more obvious in this image. But you're seeing just a very similar shape there. And then you're just seeing his left arm on our right. There just aren't very many eyebrow hairs. Of course, it is slightly difficult to see if that's, post-mortem or injuries or something that had happened over time. But it definitely looks like he doesn't have very many eyebrow hairs on his left eyebrow. And it's just much more straight and just not as thick. Yep, so there's that. So you can check out the nose. This is what really gets me. And, I can't put pictures of the skulls. Trying to be respectful of that. But this is where I just really disagree with Curtis Weaver. is, you can see that this the nasal bone, if you look at a skull and learn what the nasal bone is, it is very, very damaged. And Commercial noticed that as an artist in her. I think she just had maybe a photograph of one of the many paintings you know, where people went and duplicated the RLDS painting. Joseph Smith III says that in the letter, that he duplicated it, and it was in Iowa. The original was in Missouri. And also Utah Mormons duplicated that painting. I was a little off in my drawing there. I was just kind of rushed as I made this, but so the nostril's a little bit bigger. But I'm just showing you, like, there's a little bit of that bump out there, and how his nostrils look, the shape of his nose. So just everything lines up, and then this is, you got the lip shape. You can click on that, or you can watch the chin, or you can just watch superimposing and all that. So